Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another week of Bite-Size Thursday, a subsidiary, or what is that what he said? Subsidiary.
No, because
subsidiary
is the correct
thing. Subsidiary of Slate Media. I'm Jared. This is Jake. I said it right this week.
Woohoo!
And we're watching through Star Wars Visions. This is episode 8, so we're near the end of the season. And the name of the episode is Lop and Ochō.
Oppenheimer. What?
Oppenheimer.
No.
It is animated by, I believe it's pronounced Geno Studio, which I looked up what they've done. Not too much. They've only been around for about 8 years. Coming up on 9.
Microsoft hasn't had a chance to close them yet. I'm sorry, that's an outdated joke at this point.
Yeah, they only have 17 employees. So very small. They've worked on things I've never heard of, but I'll name some if you've heard of any, Jake. Kokoku, Moment by Moment.
What?
Kokoku, that's what it says. Golden Kamoi, oh boy. Pet, and then Shine On. Bakumatsu Bad Boys. And then they've done an OVA, and then they did a film, Genocidal Organ. They took over from another studio for that. So yeah, they're relatively new, haven't done a lot of stuff. This is, a bigger thing they've done. So it's cool to see some smaller studios working on stuff. And again, we have not seen this episode. We don't even know what it's about.
What is an episode?
I don't recognize anybody in the cast. So not much else to mention on my part going into this episode.
Johnny Young Bosch in the cast?
Nope.
Darn.
Yeah. So anything?
I love my boy Johnny Young Bosch.
Me too. Anything to add?
I see the Jedi symbol on the thumbnail. We have the screen on, and we can see it. It just reminds me of Jedi Fallen Order, and it makes me think that it's going to somehow be connected. And I'm getting my hopes up, and it's not, and I'm going to be sad.
All right.
That's all I had to add. Other than that, let's
take a bite. Welcome back, everybody. We just watched Lop and Ochō, an animation from Geno Studio. And are we going to say the line? We going to say the line again?
Sure.
I'd watch a whole series of this.
Yeah, see, we're right on there, man. Like, man.
Every time, it's like, yeah, I'd take a full story.
I think that the fatal flaw in these is becoming clear in that there's just not enough time in them. A lot of them feel sort of rushed because there's not enough time to tell a whole story in, what was it, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, something like that?
Yeah.
And so you're watching this, and all of a sudden, I don't want to question the power of, like, okay, she suddenly awakens a power that she didn't have the whole thing because all that, but it just doesn't feel developed because it's not, because it can't be.
Yeah, there's a moment when Lop pulls the Kyber crystal Sai to herself when she has shown no force
ability.
By
the way, the Kyber crystal Sai is really a really sick idea because it effectively gives it the power of a lightsaber without having to be a lightsaber.
Yep.
In fact, we said that there's a scene where it pops up and all the what was it, Yoka Saba or something?
Yasaburo? Are you talking about their clan?
The clan is fighting, and they're using real swords. Why on earth would they do that?
Yeah, but in that moment, you're like, what? When she pulls it to herself through the force, and Jake, in these, you can't question the timing. You can't. They all do this because they don't have time.
Well, and they're anime as hell.
Yeah. Oh, that Empire villain guy, that slithery little guy, and you're like,
green ear.
Yeah, you're just like, yeah, that's the most anime they could make him. Yeah, I like the setup too, where it's like, the Empire has control over a planet.
It reminded me a little bit of the opening parts of Rebels.
Yeah, everything
on the Ahsoka show.
You're saying everything on Lothal.
Yeah.
How you have the city, and then you have some kind of building or industrial area, on Lothal, it's the tower. Here, it's like that little village thing in the water, or whatever that is, or industrial park. It's connected by a long, like, flat bridge on land like that. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I like they're there to tap resources, and the Yasaburo clan is kind of, they're kind of fighting back a little bit. It's not super well developed because I got 20 minutes to introduce everything and not tie up the story, but at least, like, this is like the inciting incident of a bigger story that will never come to fruition. So
this reminded me a lot of an anime that there's a lot of different versions of, and I can't remember what version I watched, but Tenchi Muyo, if you've ever heard of it.
No.
The sword and the fighting reminded me of it, and the way that Ochō was animated or drawn, it just really spoke to me like that. Also, again, I'm going to say it every episode, and I know it's a consequence of being animated versus real, but real. That lightsaber just had so much more character than anything.
Yeah, the way the hilt is designed,
the inscription on the blade itself.
I'm getting there, yeah. Saying, but you even said out, like, hilts can have character. What's it called? The stuff that hangs off, like a talisman? Is that the right word?
I don't really.
But it had stuff hanging off it, and then, like, within the lightsaber blade is the actual blade. Like you were saying, like, just the whole thing, and it's curved too. It was a curved blade.
I still think those kyber crystal size are insane.
Such a cool idea, yeah. Yeah, they're fighting the boomsticks or whatever she had. Yeah, and it's another thing is, like, yeah, this feels like the first arc of a TV show.
It doesn't feel like it would be the first episode, though.
No.
It feels like it almost feels like it would be the end of the first arc.
Yeah, well, the beginning, like, before they jump 7 years, that's the first episode, or, like, the first scene, and then we go setting up
but what
things.
I'm saying is this final episode is the end of the arc, and then the rest of the story becomes how do we rectify this?
Yeah, it's just, there's so many cool ideas, and it's like, man, I'd take full shows of these.
Man, why don't we get more cool ideas like this in movies?
I don't know.
It makes you feel like there are hundreds of thousands of people out there that can make stuff like this. Maybe even millions of people that can make stuff like this. And we pull from a pool of about what feels like 100 people to write big movies.
Yep.
I know it's not actually 100 people, but
yeah,
you know what I'm trying. You know the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, and with any studio movie or show, it's unless it's like a very strong creative presence, it's made by committee. The studio heads who have been in place forever, or the kind of the same types of people are making the same decisions because they don't want to take risks. Usually, that's why we feel
make money.
That's why we feel so creatively deprived.
Well, there's a lot of words that I could say about that, but
yeah, it's a shame because when you let people make stuff,
they make stuff that's good.
Yeah, not all the time. But that's the risk you take, and I think the rewards outweigh the negatives of when you just give creative control. Not all, because we all know we've seen creative control go off the rails, but that's one person with a ton of power, as opposed to letting smaller groups of people tell stories in their own way.
Cites Taika Waititi. Cites M. Night Shyamalan.
I was going to say, think of filmmakers in the last couple years that they're given these giant budgets and their movies fail. Damien Chazelle with Babylon, he just not enough nose in that. What's his name? Ari Aster with Beau's Afraid. And this one to a degree, even though it's a good movie.
Beau's Afraid fail?
It didn't do super well, but still, like, there's no nose. He had total control. It seemed, we don't know, and it's blown out of proportion. I was gonna say to a lesser degree, Robert Eggers with The Northman. It's a good movie. But it's just, even he said it was bigger than he'll ever make again. So it's just,
I wonder, because then you have people like Villeneuve, who makes Dune, that's got to be one of the biggest movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Because number one, because it's split into two parts,
and he built to it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, most of his movies I've seen are huge. 2049. Blade Runner 2049. Trying to think.
Arrival.
That's pretty big for what it is.
Yeah, but it's funny how like he starts with, because the earliest movie I've seen is Incendies, and it's pretty small scale, and Prisoners is pretty small scale.
Sicario is pretty small scale as well too.
Yeah, it's bigger than like Prisoners, but then he goes from, and then Enemy is very small scale, and then he starts getting bigger and bigger, and you make these other sci-fi movies building up to Dune. The problem with those other directors I named is I think all three of them, that was like their third or fourth movie. Like, it was just a big jump. Whereas Villeneuve, he has other movies too. Like that, Dune's got to be, I don't know, his 8th, 9th movie, something like you build to it.
Yeah.
So that's not always the case, but I think it's like instead of, we go from very limited to control to total control, and it's like giving a 5-year-old a train set, a giant train set. They just do whatever they want.
Do you think Villeneuve?
I think.
Do you think Villeneuve had full creative control for Dune?
Mostly, I think. Okay. His past movies proved.
I'd buy that.
And then the first one had to be successful for them to greenlight the second one. So it's not like they just said.
One. Well, someday the third one.
We'll see. He has, they've said, from what I've read, he has it like worked on, or the script like done, but it has to greenlight.
If they don't make a third one, that makes Anya Taylor-Joy's appearance in that movie completely unnecessary.
A little bit. That's a whole nother discussion. We could talk probably for hours about the world of Dune.
Oh yeah.
You've
only even read the first book.
Only the first book, and I know it only gets weirder.
So, just as a quick aside, if you are if you are in the camp of Paul Atreides is the bad guy, which both of us I think are, but you at all think that is ambiguous in the first book, it is not by the end of the trilogy.
Yeah. Back to the Visions episode, though. Yeah, the pacing is the hardest thing to get behind because they don't have time. But that all that does is make us want more, stretched out.
I sort of think that is not a sin of the studios, but a sin of... I think, given all the money in the world that Disney has, I think they probably could have let these people make full-on movies and released full-on movies as in like a Visions category. Maybe not like...
Or at least double length.
Yeah, or
like
45 minutes.
Yeah.
The length of a Mandalorian episode.
Usually, I think season 3, most of those were like 25 minutes.
They were a bit shorter, weren't they?
Yeah.
Which is sad because I think season 3 doesn't get a fair shake.
Yeah. Speaking of the Mandalorian, something that what's his name? I can't remember Mando's actual name, but he says Dank Farrik a lot, and they said that in this episode. I go, hey, there's a nice little tie-in. So I just wanted to bring that up. Yeah, that's all I really got on it. It's just...
I'm interested to see... We're almost done with season 1 now. We have, one episode left?
One episode left.
I'm interested to see, and I would be interested in just seeing a sequel to one of these just randomly pop up. I don't think it's going to happen, but it would be interesting.
Yeah. And there's like a 2-year gap between the two seasons, or 1 year in between. So it's like I doubt... And they'd rely on anyone to remember anything because... It's people, and it's the streaming era and Star Wars fans, which we are. But
I don't know. There's been a lot of female presence in this for being something from Star Wars.
Yeah, which is probably why no one watched it. Unfortunately, I hate Star Wars fans. I really do, and I am one.
I don't like to admit it, but I am.
Yeah. Anything else on Lop and Ochō?
I don't know. What was the line that Papa delivered? That was yada, 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 Lop.
Lop.
I laughed so hard. Anyway, other than that, if you want to find us, well, you can check out our Tuesday show. We're running through the Marvel movies. Not sure what one we're on at this point, but, other than that, you can check us out on Facebook. X.
Formerly known as Twitter.
Instagram. Ever funny TikTok. If you'd like to listen to us, you can check us out on Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, anywhere you get your podcasts. If you want to listen to us on some place with a rating system, go ahead and leave us a rating. Greatly appreciate it. Or you can come right back here to YouTube. Hit that subscribe bell. Hit that subscribe button.
And ring
that bell. Get notified for when we upload new content. Other than that, what's our next episode, Jared?
The final episode in Vision Season 1 is Akakiri. Another Science Saru animated episode. I'm seeing a couple recognizable names in the cast for the English dub, and yeah, that's next week. So, yeah. And until then, let's
take a bite.